start the recording. There we go. All right, recording is started. Now, um, like I say always, if you run into something, if you hear something, if you see something, share it with us. And Jeff and Kim stumbled onto a few things that they wanted to bring up tonight. So, Jeff and Kim, tell us what you've learned.
Well, I was watching this YouTube video from Israel, my channel, and they had uh, he had a thing on Gaza and why Israel's land should never be divided. And so he said the problem with the whole thing going on with Israel and why they're always being attacked and stuff like that is stems back from the time between Abraham and Abimelech. You find that in Genesis 21, and it said that before this compromise that took place, Abraham was promised the land by God,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course when he's going through a tough time with the Philistines at the time, they come to a point where they'll make a compromise, and so this was after, of course, Abimelech had taken Sarah to be his wife,
Yep.
and the whole house was shut up, and all of his other
Mm-hmm.
wives, and everything couldn't have any babies or anything because the wombs were all shut up.
Yep.
So he said, "Let's make a covenant." So Abraham decides to make this covenant, and the interesting thing was he made the covenant by slaying seven, I think it's seven rams or something like
I
that.
think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was seven lambs, and that was how they had their banquet and their
Mm-hmm.
covenant. Well, the interesting thing is, not long after this, um, it 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 forced, you know, later on they lose like seven places of worship. They lose, what was it? I got it on my notes here. Trying to do this. Let's see. Um, anyway, it's a lot of sevens.
Yeah.
Seven of his generals or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Seven leaders.
Hold on, let me see. I'm trying to find it. Um, anyway, I lost it somewhere, but um, it's in my stack here. But anyway, he loses like seven places of worship,
Yeah.
and they had 7 months or something, and so there's a lot of sevens that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But and then after that, I mean, also during this time, uh, that Abraham was told that he needed to go to the mountain to prepare a sacrifice, and that ended up being his son.
Yep.
If you remember that,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason why he was being tested is because of this very thing. He made a covenant
Yep.
of a land that was promised to him. He gave it, basically
Mm-hmm.
gave permission to somebody else,
Yeah.
and that's what also led him down into Egypt, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is also very interesting. You know,
Yep.
so uh, and the whole thing is the Philistines were live. That's where they lived, was in Gaza along the
Yep.
coastline there, and so during the Exodus, if you remember, they walked through the wilderness,
Yep.
but they didn't walk through the direct route.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they didn't take the direct route was because he had already made a covenant with the Philistines. And
Yep.
so there's several times where you read that, you won't march to this land, because of this. You
Mm-hmm.
won't march to this land because of that. Well, that's one of them. And so I thought that was also
Oh yeah.
interesting. So it was, instead of a few days journey, it ended up being a 40-year
Yep.
journey. And let's see what else. Oh yeah.
The spiritual ramification of the reason why.
Yeah. Well, see, the whole thing of it is that the what Kim was bringing up here was that there was no, they weren't spiritually ready for the land. That's
Yeah,
also a reason.
yeah.
They were already trying to go back to Egypt. So
Oh, yeah.
I
More
thought
than
that
once.
was interesting too. Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah. This I found it. Here it goes. The consequences of covenant that Abraham made with Abimelech. So what are they? They are the 7 wars lost to the Philistines, 7 righteous men killed like Samson saw and his sons, 7 sanctuaries destroyed, 2 temples, and the ark of the covenant exiled in the land of the Philistines for 7 months.
Yep.
This all of course was linked to the 7 lambs that Abraham offered
Mm-hmm.
as a part of his covenant with Abimelech. And also, God detoured Israel away from Gaza, even though it was a shorter path. And there has to be something that was spiritually involved there, you know?
Yep.
And it's because and King David had to fight the Philistines over and over and over again.
Over
Because,
and over and over again.
yeah,
Because,
because all of it was spiritual. That's the reason
yep.
why that happened, So, anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. And there's one more little tidbit. He said, he asked a question. He said, what would it have been like if he had never made that covenant?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they would have just inherited the land.
Yeah.
They would have never had to deal with the stuff that they're dealing
Right.
with. And the other question is, he says, maybe that's why the law was given on Mount Sinai and not Mount Zion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I thought that was also interesting.
Because Mount Zion, Mount um,
Sinai,
Sinai is a place of judgment and fire.
yeah,
Right.
and
Uh,
Mount Zion would have been the hill of promise. But
right.
Exactly.
and then on top of that, when October 7th happened, Hamas launches its brutal assault, and it called it the Al Aqsa flood. And the reason why they said that was because it was all about the Al Aqsa Mosque.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
they did it because of the red heifers.
Mm-hmm.
See, they understood it was spiritual.
Yep.
The world doesn't understand it's spiritual, but they do, and believers do.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual thing. So anyway, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I got the whole thing on everything that was
If y'all want to
transcribed.
see that video, we can send it.
Yeah, I can link the video
We
to
can link the
y'all.
video
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Send it on and just send it to
It,
the whole
it's got
group.
a lot of good
Yeah.
visuals and stuff like that, so it's really good.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
that's
that's pretty much it. It's the reason why we're having all this stuff going on
yep.
with in the Middle East is spiritual.
Right. And it has to do not with the church. It has to do with Jerusalem and Israel.
That's
That's
right.
That's
right.
who we need our eyes on because remember we talked about it last week when when um, when um, Daniel started to pray for forgiveness, for repentance, for turning away from their rebellion to God in Babylon. Everything that we've read so far, when when Gabriel speaks, he says this will be. Let's see. Let me find it here. 70 weeks are decreed about your people and your holy city. So the only your there is Daniel. and Daniel's people are Israel. So
Hmm.
all of this stuff that we're looking at the 70 weeks is about his people, Israel. So we can't get too much of the there's a lot of theories bouncing around about the 70 weeks. A lot of stuff out there, and a lot of it has to do with the church and the church's place in that. But Gabriel didn't have in mind the church. Gabriel bringing the word from God, this is from God's mouth, out of Gabriel's mouth to Daniel's ear. He says, your people.
Hmm.
So it is hugely important that our eyes need to be on Israel and
Exactly.
understanding what's going on over there. Our nation could be a part of the end times. I think Jeff mentioned a week or two ago about the young lions having to do with the British Empire and
Right. Ezekiel,
uh, the
Ezekiel
ten
38.
the 10 kingdoms and all of that. That has to do with sort of the remnants of the Roman Empire. Um, we may be players in that, but we are going to be minor players. But
Yeah,
in addition, as we say, eyes on Jerusalem, eyes on Israel, we also remember the grace of God that gives us a part in this because we are engrafted. We
exactly.
have been adopted into the family of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Paul tells us very specifically in Romans, you have been engrafted. The wild olive has been engrafted into the olive tree, and we are now supported by the root.
Hmm.
That would be the Messiah, the root of the olive tree. So we have a part in this, but our part is by the grace of God. We are engrafted. So it has it we are a part of it, but our eyes need to be on Israel. So let's pick up where we left off, and I promise to finish chapter 9 tonight.
But
But
Jeff, do you remember the name of that movie?
Yeah, it was on Israel, my channel, and it's on YouTube, and it's the I think it's the one talking about Gaza. He's got
Okay.
a channel there. It's called Israel, my channel, and
Oh, okay.
it it'll have the one on Gaza, have Netanyahu in the graphic. So
Okay.
if you
and
see that one on YouTube, yeah,
and Jeff's gonna put that link. Just respond to the invitation.
yeah,
Just
and I'll
respond.
put the link
Do a
there.
reply to all and put the link in there. So Bonnie, you'll get the link to it directly.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Good.
I'll do that
Thank
for
you.
everybody.
Um,
It's wonderful.
yeah,
He's still a new video. I think he might have done one other video since then.
But anyway, I'll send it out to
yeah,
everybody.
Yeah.
and that channel. There's several channels on by Messianic Jews over in Israel that are giving us information about what's really going on over there. So those are the ones I tend to look to for what's going on. I don't pay any attention to what these characters on television are telling us. They are deceivers and charlatans.
Got that right.
Listen to the people that are on the ground over there. So, um, yeah, very good, very good.
Thank you,
So,
Jeff.
yeah, and it goes for all of you. If you see anything uh, that, especially if it has to do with Israel, bring it to our class here because we all want to be watching over there. We all want to be looking because we're looking for clues. God has given us prophecy, but prophecy, if you're in the middle of it, is very difficult to deal with. And it always has been. Look at Daniel. Look at how many times Daniel has been sick to death when he gets these prophetic announcements. He's just been so worried and just grief stricken about what's coming. So we need to be watchful about what's going on. And right here in these like 4 verses here, these 4 verses are just unbelievable what they're telling us. And you know, the book of Daniel is just unbelievable in itself, but this little piece here in chapter 9 is the playbook. It's Nebuchadnezzar's statue from the golden head of Babylon all the way to the feet of iron and clay. That statue represents the history, the history from Nebuchadnezzar to the end. So it is incredible what we've got here before us. So let's take a look. And remember, from last week, we were taking from verse 24. And we read, this is about the 70 weeks. So we're in chapter 9, verse 24. 70 weeks were decreed about your people and your holy city to finish, comma, to finish the transgression. That's the first thing we're looking for. We have 6 points here. And remember them from last week. Here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first one, to finish the transgression, that Hebrew word there, to finish, that's not really like to stop. It's not really like we want to completely stop the transgression. It means more a restraining or a hindering of transgression. So we miss a lot sometimes with when we don't know the Hebrew. I wish I did know it better, but I have to rely on other people. So um, that Hebrew word there is to restrain or hinder. So the first thing we're looking for in this 70 weeks is a hindering or a restraint to transgression. Number 2, to put an end to sin. The word there is not really sin. The word there that they translate sin is hata'at, which is the sin offering that's outlined in Leviticus. In the 4th and the 5th chapter of Leviticus, that talks about the hata'at offering. And it is an atoning offering for a sin. So it is a covering for sin. When you make a hata'at offering, you're making it for a specific sin that you know of. So number 2, which is really important in looking for these 70 weeks, is to put to complete. It's not to put an end. The Hebrew word is to complete. Like Jesus said, it is finished. Is to complete the hata'at, the sin offering. That's a big clue right there, what we're looking for. And to atone for iniquity. Atone is an atonement. I remember if you break it, it says at one mint. It means to be at one with something. So the atonement is the offering to make us whole with God again. So it is to atone for iniquity, and iniquity is a characteristic of sin. When you have iniquity, you have sin. If you sin, the result is iniquity. If you get in, if you lay with hogs, you're going to get muddy. So think of it this way: if I'm going to lay with the hogs, I'm going to be muddy. If I'm going to sin, I'm going to be iniquity. I'm going to have iniquity. So it is to atone, to cover iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness. That's pretty much what it says, to bring in an everlasting righteousness, to seal both vision and prophet. To seal, remember, that's not to shut up or to close. To seal is to validate. If a king made Nebuchadnezzar's edict, he sealed it. He put his seal on it, which means he validated that as being proper. So in this 70 weeks, we will see a validation of visions, and it doesn't say prophecy. In some translations, I don't think, yeah, in some translations it says visions and prophecy, but that's not the word. The word is prophet. So it is to validate the visions and the prophet. And then the final one is to anoint a most holy place. Now, the word place is not in there, but the words there are the Holy of Holies. Um, and the only time those words are used, Holy of Holies, is they are talking about the inner the inner place in the temple where God's presence was, the Holy of Holies, the Kadesh Kadashim, the Holy of Holies, that place behind the veil. So to anoint the Holy of Holies, and to anoint it meant to, if you remember, um, when they went back to Israel to rebuild the temple, they had to sanctify that ground because it had been defiled. So to anoint the Holy of Holies meant to make it clean and to make it holy so that it would be presentable to God and he would be able to come back into that place once the temple was rebuilt. So we're looking for those six things: to anoint the Holy of Holies, to validate the visions and the prophets, to bring an everlasting righteousness, to atone for iniquity, to complete the hata'at, the sin offering, and to restrain or hinder transgressions or the rebellion against God. So that's what we are looking for in these 70 weeks to occur. They are goals of this. And every one of you is thinking, yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it. So, verse 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going out of the word to restore and build Jerusalem to the coming of an anointed one, a prince, there shall be 7 weeks. Now in my translation there's a period there. There shall be 7 weeks, period. Then for 62 weeks it shall be built again with squares and a moat, but in troubled time. It's actually surprised me. This is the English Standard here. This is a fairly word for word translation. This is a fairly robust translation. The probably the most robust word for word translation there is the King James Bible, believe it or not. It is a very robust word for word translation. And in the King James and also in the Orthodox translation. They don't have a period there. The King James, let's see. I got I've got the Orthodox. It's about. Oh wait, there's King James. If we read in the King James, and some of you might have it there. If we read in the King James, Daniel chapter 9, and the Gabriel, and he informed me, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon the holy city to finish the transgressions, and we go through those 6. Know therefore and understand from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So the King James translation, they chose to say, and remember, in Hebrew, there isn't any, there's no punctuation. How they read, I don't know, but there's no punctuation, so we can't look for commas and periods. In modern Hebrew, there are, but in the old, and if you go to a synagogue and you have the privilege of being able to look at their Torah scroll, it's just letters. It's just letters all down the page. There's no nothing. It's just letters and letters and letters, and it's scroll and they scroll and they scroll. And yet the rabbi will come up there, pull the Torah scroll down, roll it out, roll it a couple of times, and he'll be right where he wants to be. How do they do that? It is truly amazing how those rabbis know their Torah. I have a hard time finding it with verses and chapters written down here, but they don't. So anyway, um, so it looks like that, best guess, and it makes more sense to me, that there are 7 and 62 weeks. So there's 69. The 69 weeks of the 70 weeks are from, remember where it says, and to understand the going out of the word to restore and build Jerusalem to the coming of the anointed one, Messiah, the Prince, Mashiach Hanagiv, the Messiah, the Prince. There shall be 70 weeks and 62 weeks, and they will build the temple in a troubled time. Now, if you've read Ezra and Nehemiah about when the Jews came back and started to build the temple, it was a fight to get the temple rebuilt between the Jews that had stayed in the Holy Land and the Jews that were coming back from Babylon. It was a fight to get that temple built. And that's exactly what Gabriel was bringing the word from God to Daniel, saying that it will be a troubled time to rebuild the temple. But between the time you're told to go back and the time that the Messiah comes will be 69 weeks. And when we look at 69 weeks of years, it comes right about the time that Jesus is on the earth. Now, I have seen a million calculations. I uh, Tom goes through a bunch of them in his speaking. If you get any books, there's a couple of books on the 70 weeks of Daniel. If you read them, they'll go through all these calculations. We're talking about ancient times here, and to me, it's not. If it's close, for me, that's good enough. What's the important thing is what God told us to look for. He gave us a time period that works for those people because they were counting the years right there. When we have to look back, we've gone through 4 or 5 different kind of calendars. We're relying on ancient records when there may be 1 or 2 records of the Babylonian kings to make a guess as to when that decree came, because the Bible doesn't tell us that in 52 AD this happened. The Bible tells us that this was during the reign of Koresh or Nebuchadnezzar, or and the best we can do is look at our ancient history, and that's a guess. So to me, if it doesn't, it's amazing that that 72 weeks or 69 weeks, if we calculate that out, and you know, 69 weeks, that's 480 something years. And when you look at about the time 500 and something, and then the 480 something year, it comes out right around the time when Jesus was born, depending upon which calendar you use, right about the time he was born, or right about the time of his triumphal entry and crucifixion. So for me, that's,
483 years
yeah,
exactly.
thank you. 483. And when you
Yeah.
look at about the time when we think that that edict came, yeah, it works out about right. And for me, with those 6 rules, those 6 things that I'm to look for, I know what time I'm looking for. And yeah, if it misses it by a year or two, I'm not particularly worried about that, because that's the best we can do. So the thing that amazes me is those 6 goals right there were exactly what happened from the time the Jews returned until the time that Jesus was crucified. That's what happened. It hasn't completed because that's only 69 weeks, remember? 7 and 62. That's 69 weeks. That last week is the problem. So here we go. Shall be cut off and uh, uh, but in a troubled time. Verse 26. And after the 62 weeks, an appointed one, an anointed one, that's Messiah, Messiah shall be cut off and shall have nothing. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Its end shall come in a flood, and to the end there shall be war. There's no doubt about what's going on there. The Messiah will be cut off and shall have nothing. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. We've already had a glimpse, and I'm not going to finish this tonight. We've already had a glimpse of this prince to come. The little horn in chapter 7, the little horn. This is, and there's not a whole lot of argument about this. This is Antiochus Epiphanes that they're talking about here, the prince who is to come and destroy the city. And its sanctuary shall come in a flood. Say, where is a flood? Well, that word there is the Hebrew word for a tumult. A when you look at, that's not the word that they talk about in the flood in Genesis. It's not the word. Mayim is the word in there. That means waters. This word flood, usually you see a flood of waters to describe a flood like in Genesis, a flood of waters. This word has the connotation of a tumult, a tempestuous, a turbulent time. So that's exactly what had come there. The destruction of the temple in 70 AD was during a war. It was during a war. So this last piece here, and he shall make a strong covenant with many for a week and for a half of a week, and he shall put an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall come one who makes desolate until the decreed end is poured on out on the desolator. There's two end times. There's two latter days. The latter days before Jesus was born, and then after his crucifixion started the final latter days. And you have to make the change here in prophecy. This talking about the prince who is to come is an exact description of the little horn that we read about that came from the goat. But it also, when we look at the prophecy in Revelation, there is another little horn that comes from a beast that comes in the future. So this prophecy in Daniel of the 70 weeks is about the time to come, and in Daniel's case it's two times to come. The time that he's talking about in the 70 weeks here, and then the time of that 70th week that we haven't seen yet. And we've just got a couple of minutes left. So I'm going to try and sum up next week. Read through this, but remember, there are two latter days. The latter days before Jesus was born, and after his crucifixion starts the final days.
That's why Jesus said in Matthew 24.
Right, exactly. Matthew 24 is the key. Matthew 24 is the key.
He said that's why let the reader understand.
Let the reader understand. And that's what we have to do. So I'm going to try and sum it up next week, and we'll start on chapter 10 next week. So look closely at this last paragraph of chapter 9 and think in terms of the first latter days and the final latter days. Two latter days is what most people miss. Any questions before we end tonight? Any questions?
Good lesson, Norm.
All right. Get ready next week. I will end chapter 9 next week. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank
Good night,
y'all.
everyone.
God bless.
Good night.